This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software like PDF Pen for Mac, PDF Pen Pro for Mac, PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander for Mac, and Text Expander for iPhone and iPad. Learn more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. And by Eero, the wireless mesh network solution that you need. Visit Eero.com to get yours and use the coupon code MacVoices to receive free overnight shipping. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, graphic software, photography software right now seems to be in the news a whole lot because of new versions of things that are coming out. There seems to be so much competition in this space, and I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about some of this and kind of get us up to speed and let us know what's going on and where we should be looking than Jackie Dove. Jackie, welcome. It's great to see you again.
Oh, thank you very much, Chuck. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited because I just finished reading, as we record this today, your Photoshop CC 2018 review in Macworld, which brought up some things that I was not aware of. But before we get to that, I did want to touch on iMovie because I know that's an area that you cover, and obviously video is near and dear to my heart, even though I am a Final Cut user. But iMovie still, at least in my opinion, has a very definite place for so many Mac users, if for no other reason than it's free. It's sitting right there on their machine. How do you see iMovie right now stacking up in that world?
iMovie has always been a favorite of the Mac community for consumer video editing, and it remains strictly in the consumer space right now. And I think the best thing that it's done is to support its own HEVC format that has come out now with High Sierra and also iOS 11. It wouldn't have any excuse not to do that. Like, for example, Adobe decided with Photoshop Element or Premiere Elements that they were not going to support that format, for example. But of course, you know, Apple being Apple and Apple having its own ecosystem, it has that convenience factor embedded in it. And iMovie is I guess for myself, iMovie is kind of an acquired taste. And I think people who are, you know, it's free, it's on your Mac, absolutely use it. And I judged it as the best video editing for the Mac in a recent survey for Tom's Guide. So that is hands down the best. It's free, it's there, it works really nicely. It takes a little getting used to if you've used other kinds of video editing software. But I think in the end, you're going to come up with something that you really love.
Okay, I did not know that you had put it at the top of the list.
I did. Yes, we had a roundup for Tom's Guide, and we actually mixed up Windows software, Mac software, and it's kind of harder to find Mac software, especially in the video editing space or in the consumer video editing space, because of iMovie. It dominates everything, you know, because it's built into your operating system.
And I make this point to user groups constantly that there's all this great software sitting on your Mac that came with your Mac for free, and you really should go in and explore. And iMovie always leads that list because now with the iPhone, not only do we have a video camera with us everywhere, we have a really, really good video camera everywhere with us. And it's a shame to waste that and not do some things. And if you want to edit it on the iPhone itself, that's great. But if you dump it off to the Mac, you definitely have more control and more power.
Right. I mean, it's so much easier to get on your desktop with iMovie than it is to like do this little pinpoint thing on your phone. Of course, when you have a big phone, you know, that might help you out a little bit. But I would say definitely we did do the survey. iMovie came out, you know, strictly on top when it came to editing for the Mac. It does support the new HEVC format, which we would totally expect it to do. I think the thing that differentiates it a little bit from the new Final Cut Pro that's going to be coming out soon is that it's not going anywhere into the VR realm, the 360 video equirectangular panoramic, spherical panoramic world that is becoming really popular even amongst consumers today. So I think that might be one big differentiator between buying Final Cut Pro, and if you're using those kinds of cameras, you will definitely want to have a look at Final Cut Pro instead. If you're not doing that, hey, stay with iMovie. Absolutely. Hands down.
Yeah, some of these new formats and all, I think we're all having to become a little bit educated as to not just how to edit them and how to use them, but just how to consume them as well. I mean, at some point, okay, yes, I've got a spherical video that's been taken so that I could, if it were in front of me, now I can turn around and see what's behind me. Mm-hmm. But as a watcher, I'm not sure I always appreciate just what the advantage is. If I'm talking to you and you're the center of attention, does it really matter that there's some guy, trying to photobomb me in the background when I'm the one that's interviewing you? It's just a whole new way of thinking about it, even from the viewer's perspective.
It's a whole new way of visualizing the world because it all depends on point of view. And the problem is with 360 video is you're not really doing a conversation like ours. You're doing panoramas. You're doing visuals, you're doing natural visuals, you're doing scenes, you're doing landscapes. Those are the kinds of things that really lend themselves more to the 360 video world. And people love that. So here you are, you've got the family sitting at the picnic table, right? So you could designate that as a point of view if you want to, but then look at this entire place where you are. That's the value of 360 video, is that you can film the entire environment where people, you can get your family in there if you want to, but you can also, view the entire landscape, as it were. So I think that's, first of all, people love variety. These are brand new cameras that have come out within the last couple years. They are coming down in price rapidly. They are definitely consumer priced, under $600 for most of them. Most of them are really, really good. They depend on stitching. Stitching is done in the camera. You don't have to do any of that stuff. All you have to do is be able to, download it to your desktop, import it into your video app, and then if you have the tools available within that video app to, customize things, fix exposure, sharpen, cut various points that you want to cut out, any kind of editing that you would normally do with your video editor, you can do in a 360-degree equirectangular video editing program.
How many times do you have to say that to get it to roll right off your tongue?
A tongue twister.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say it again?
No, that's good.
Okay. Just for this.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
I mean, it comes into that format. And yeah. I just want the reason I say it is because I want to make sure that the audience understands that it is in fact a different format and that you have to handle that file differently and that it's going to come in and import only in programs that support it.
Yeah, and iMovie's not going to do that. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Not right now.
Yeah, not right now, but maybe at some point, because
yeah.
Final Cut doesn't do it right as we speak yet. Right. Although we've seen the new version of Final Cut that's supposed to be coming before the end of the year that will. So, just more stuff to learn and play with.
Well, here's the thing that kind of gets me about the brand new versions of these video programs is that Adobe and Apple both have made a really sharp distinction between their consumer audiences and their professional audiences. And I'm not sure that they make the right call on that because, here you have Premiere Pro, for example, and you have Premiere Elements. So Premiere Elements does not support any kind of VR type editing, whereas Premiere Pro does. Same thing with Apple. iMovie doesn't support it, but Final Cut Pro, the new version that's coming out soon, will. So it's really interesting to see how they've delineated their target audiences. So, you have Premiere Pro, which is much, much more expensive, and then you have Premiere Elements, which is a consumer product, but you're not going to get that feature.
Yeah. And all of these programs have a learning curve of to some degree, of some kind. It's not like it's a word processor you pick up and just, I can do it. But there's also that leveraged learning that once I learn one NLE, nonlinear editor, then I can transfer at least some of that knowledge over to another one. May not quite have a total command of everything, but I certainly at least know what to call things and maybe where I might find them. And so it makes moving around and experimenting kind of a fun process, except for the fact that when you get into Final Cut, when you get into Premiere, as you said, you're dropping some significant money on them, so it's a little bit more difficult to pick and choose and play with them. Right,
exactly. You kind of have to commit yourself unless you've got a lot of money floating around.
I don't think there's anybody on this show right now, or they're just listening to this show that just has a lot of money floating around for no good reason.
Although, you can try software for free for they have trial software for like a month or something like that. And I'm not sure whether you can save out and actually see the results. But, if you can, that's always good to do the tryouts. The free software tryouts are pretty much universal these days. So there's always an opportunity to see whether you can use the program and whether you like it or not.
Right. This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class productivity software, including Text Expander for Mac. Text Expander is one of those utilities I can't live without because it saves me so much time and so much effort. With just a few keystrokes, or snippets as Text Expander refers to them, I can quickly insert email signatures, standard language into letters, blog posts, documents. Anywhere I can enter text, I can use Text Expander to save me time. Best of all, though, is the fact that you can do it too. That's one of the beauties of Text Expander. Anyone can use it because of its flexibility and ease of use. If you have something you type frequently, say your full name, just go to Text Expander, type it in, or even paste it in if you happen to have it on the clipboard, and assign it a snippet. It's that easy. Then, the next time you need to type your name, just use the snippet, and voila, it's there. Now that's a small example, but what if you could do that with your bio, or some boilerplate for a legal document, or the Declaration of Independence? You can, because it's that easy to set up Text Expander to do your bidding. That's not all Text Expander can do. Lines of code, fill-in snippets, forms, the list goes on, but if you never go beyond basic snippets, that's okay. Text Expander is well worth the money in saved time. You can download a free trial of Text Expander right now from Smile at smilesoftware.com. See what it can do for your productivity, and then buy it from smilesoftware.com. I know you're going to love being more productive with Text Expander. That's Text Expander from Smile, the makers of world-class productivity software at smilesoftware.com. Thanks to Smile for their ongoing support of MacVoices. So let's kick over to still photography and all of the options there. And as I said at the top, there's so many things coming out, new versions. For some reason, 2017 into 2018 seems to be a banner year for all kind of changes. But the thing I'm seeing more than anything in so many of these press releases is artificial intelligence, machine learning. And I'm looking at this and saying, these are my still photos. Do I really need artificial intelligence and machine learning to edit these things?
You need it for other things. For example, a lot of iPhone apps are now including artificial intelligence. And what are they including them for? For example, you have Enlight FaceTune, right? This is a selfie app, for heaven's sakes. It's got artificial intelligence. Why? Because everybody wants to look better. So this artificial intelligence will, and especially if you're using FaceTune's app to shoot your photo, your selfie, for example, that you didn't import your selfie into the program, but rather shot your selfie with the program. Okay, so this is where it gets nice. AI will smooth your skin out, will slim your nose, will make your skin tones look brighter, will cover blemishes, will make you look nice. And you can all control that through the app. You can say, you do your preview, for example, through the app. You say, well, I don't like the way my nose looks. Let's slim it down. My face looks kind of fat. Let's slim it down. My eyes are kind of too close together. Let's push them wider apart. And the artificial intelligence part of it figures out how all of that stuff is going to be integrated into your face. You look natural as you take that shot. And that's what AI does for apps like that.
Okay, so I don't want to rain on TuneIn's parade or a TuneIn.
FaceTune.
FaceTune, sorry. I don't want to rain on FaceTune's parade or anybody else's parade. Is it really fair to categorize this as AI? Or is this just a whole lot of sophisticated algorithms? Or is that the definition of AI?
Well, I guess they are advertising it as AI. It is algorithmic, and it is based on machine learning. So, yeah, I would say so. Not going into any of their proprietary software mechanisms or anything like that, but that's how they're putting it. I would say, a lot of AI in photography programs, for instance, even like Adobe Photoshop Elements, that's used for searching. It's used for object recognition. It's used for face recognition. Premiere Elements uses AI to, for instance, you've got a video, it will pick out the best frame for a still out of a video. That kind of thing. So there are mechanical processes that we go through when we're editing video or editing photographs that we've got used to doing manually all of this time. And now we have helpers. You still have to do it. You still have to want to do it, and you still have to intend to do it. But you have help when you decide to do it. I can scrub through my whole video and say, I like that frame. I want that frame. Or you can tell the program to scrub through the video for you and find the best frame.
And that's what Live Photos is really doing. It's showing you one frame in that set of frames that, by its standards, it thinks is the best.
That's another good example. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all of those are intelligent methods that the new versions of these programs are using to help you and to help you achieve the kind of shots that you want or the kind of video that you want. Premiere Elements will also go through your video and take out all of the extraneous stuff that's in there, shorten your video, tighten it, and make it more interesting. And you don't even have to do anything. You just, flip it on.
I don't think I ever really thought about defining those processes as AI. But when you step back, that's exactly what it really is. Just like the little boxes that pop up around faces in your camera, and
right?
That's what it's doing. It's recognizing faces as something special, and it's adjusting for that. So right. I guess
it recognizes people. It can actually recognize individuals if you've tagged them or labeled them. You can search for various things, beach or car or building, and it'll come up pretty well with most of the things that you've asked for, because that intelligent part of the program actually sees what is in that frame.
And we're all becoming a little spoiled because we expect it to work. So if I type in beach, I expect to get beach.
You will get beach. No question about it.
Yeah, and so those times when you do something marginal like trash can and you don't quite get the trash can, you think, well, what's wrong with this thing? And you kind of overlook just how amazing the point that we've gotten to is. And it's only going to get better from here.
Well, and first of all, back in the day, you didn't take 1,000 photographs a week. So it was easy to find your trash can when you wanted to. Today, I fill up my phone practically every day with photos and videos. Every day I'm taking way more footage than I ever expect to. If you're going to try to look through all of that and go one by one to try to find what you want, you're going to be spending a lot of time searching. So that intelligent part of all of these programs really helps with finding what you're looking for.
Jackie, I don't want to take us too far off, but I will. You lead me into that, so I have to ask: if you're taking that many photos, how do you have the time, or how do you manage to prioritize them, curate them, store them?
Okay, there are various ways to do that. I have my own little methodology, and basically it has to do with tying in the cloud to tying in my desktop. And when I have Google Photos on my phone, and the second that I do anything, I tap Google Photos, and everything that's on my phone right now is saved to the cloud first. Then I will download it to my desktop into into Photos, and old habits die hard. And then I will save all of that stuff on my desktop, and I will also save it in a separate folder on a separate hard drive. A lot of that stuff has not been curated. It's all saved. When I need to curate it, I will go in and find it. And that's how I do it.
And you're comfortable with everything going up to Google Photos?
I wouldn't say comfortable. But I understand that you can't have everything physically based. We have heard too many horror stories about photographers losing their entire portfolio when somebody steals their hard drive, steals their equipment. They have a disaster in the home and it gets lost, stolen, destroyed. You cannot survive the volume that you have today with just having things physically based. So while I'm not really wild about the idea of putting everything on Google Photos, or Flickr for that matter either, since I have a Flickr Pro account as well, I think it's a necessity. And look, Adobe would like to cash in on this part of it also. I mean, if you want to buy more space from Adobe, they will sell it to you. So it really just all depends. I think most photographers either are aware or should be aware that they need to figure out how to store their stuff. And they need to make sure that it is distributed, and that array is not going to be enough if it's sitting on your desktop. There have got to be alternative strategies that you use as a pro to make sure that your livelihood is protected.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue about what's more important, the livelihood of a professional or all those precious photos we have from all our lives, because now
that's all I have.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Every picture of my cats, every picture of my family. I mean, I'm not a professional photographer. I'm a software reviewer, and I have a specialty, and I cover cameras, and I cover photography, and I cover video, but I never put myself out there as a pro. But you hear the horror stories about pros most often.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about, it's been kind of a rough year for a lot of people from a natural disaster standpoint. And inevitably, whenever they're doing those, they walk up to that person whose home has been burned to the ground or flooded out or whatever. One of the first things people say is, I lost everything. I lost all my pictures. Right. And it's like, in today's world, the good news is that you don't have to spend a lot of money. In fact, in some cases, if you are willing to sacrifice just a touch of privacy, you have free options to get that stuff online, in the cloud, out of your house. And heaven knows, we hope it doesn't happen to anybody that's listening to this, or to you or to me. But it does happen to people.
Look, there are many choices for paid cloud services. You don't have to go through Google if you don't want to. You don't have to go through Flickr if you don't want to. I did it because, they're very low priced. Google is free. And back in the day when I started signing up with Flickr, it was like a pro level account was $25 a year. I thought that was worth it. And I think most consumers in terms of doing the same thing, of saving their family photos and saving their precious memories and that whole thing, that's why we do all of this. Adobe will do it for you as well. IM will do it for you. There are many, many cloud services. Even a routine backup like Backblaze, for example. They don't store things exactly the way you might expect, but if you need to find that file, you will find it. They don't have like a photo, repository where you can pick out your photo. But if you know the name of your file and you restore it, you'll get it. Yeah. So some kind of backup is absolutely needed. But as you mentioned, that's kind of a different story.
Right. And I feel obligated I don't want people thinking that that's the way to do it necessarily, because Backblaze's thing is that they have an archival service, but their basic backup service is just that. If it's on your computer, then it'll be in your backups. If you take it off the computer, I think don't hold me to it, folks, but I think it's 30 days. If it's been deleted from your computer, it's held on their servers for 30 days, then it gets deleted. So it's sort of a rolling kind of backup. So, that's great.
I did not mean to imply that it was there forever. No. It was there as long as you're paying your money.
Right, but just want to be I guess my thing is the point I wanted people to hear, Jackie, was some of those services out there. Well, I don't mind saying it. CrashPlan used to, once you send it up, it's sitting there, and even if it's been deleted off your computer, it was sitting there, and now the world has changed, and so you have to understand the difference a little more between backups and archives, and it's. Right. We're talking about your photos here, folks. I want to make sure that you have a good, clear understanding, and you don't come looking for Jackie or me and saying, "But you said," because.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good point.
What do you want out of your wireless network? First, and most obviously, that it's wireless. But wireless doesn't do you much good if it's only in 1 or 2 rooms. So you want great wireless coverage throughout your home or small business. Second, you want it to be fast, to match your hardwired connection. Third, you want it simple to set up, because who wants to spend an afternoon or evening digging through a router control panel trying to figure out what all those settings mean? Fourth, unfortunately, in today's world, you need to keep your router updated and secure more than ever. That one gets overlooked all too often because, again, who wants to spend more time managing your router than using it? Eero's wireless mesh network checks off all those boxes. Because it's mesh, your space is blanketed in strong, fast, secure Wi-Fi, so that connecting in the den is the same as connecting in the basement, and in the attic, even in the garage and the yard. Now, with the addition of a third 5 GHz radio, the second generation Eero is now tri-band and twice as fast as before. And a new thread radio makes it easy to connect low-power devices such as locks, doorbells, and other Internet of Things devices. Eero's setup is about as simple as you can get. If you can use an iPhone app, you can configure your Eero. Easy-to-understand screens will have you up and running in no time. And maybe best of all, Eero keeps your router up to date by pushing the updates you really need to your device. So there's no need to spend time managing your network. Unless, of course, you want to, but who wants to? This is enterprise-grade Wi-Fi for your home without the hassles. I know, I'm running an Eero system in my home, and it's the best wireless experience I've ever had. I'd like you to have that experience as well, and you can. Visit Eero.com and use the code MacVoices to get free overnight shipping on your new Eero system. Because again, who wants to wait? That's Eero.com and the promo code MacVoices to get free overnight shipping. It's just that easy. Thanks to Eero for their support of MacVoices.
So let's move over to the big dog, Adobe Photoshop CC 2018. Right. You just finished the review on this. Obviously, Photoshop is the big player in the photo world. Mm-hmm. Will it continue to be, do you think, or do you think some of these up-and-comers, have a chance at knocking it off the throne?
Well, I think that Adobe has a really well-defined strategy, and they are doing very well with it. And so I think in its own universe, Adobe Photoshop is going to reign supreme. If you do not mind, I mean, look, when they first came out with Creative Cloud 5 years ago, was it 2013, something like that? And they said, hey, you can't buy boxes of this stuff anymore. And we're not selling this to you as a perpetual license anymore. You have to join Creative Cloud. And guess what? We'll give you 13 apps. And the photographers just, howl. They can be very cranky. And the problem with it was that photographers do not want to use, Dreamweaver or, the motion graphics program or, some of that other stuff that they've got there. They want to use Photoshop and maybe Lightroom. And so Adobe listened and they said, okay, we got a photographer plan for you guys. It's not $49.99 a month. It's $9.99 a month. How's that? And even though a lot of people said, I'm not even going for that because I don't like subscriptions. If you want kind of the best out there, Photoshop is going to be, your gold standard. And if you're a photographer, and again, if you're earning your living as a photographer and you are using Lightroom in conjunction with Photoshop, it kind of can't be beat, but you have to accept that you're not going to be able to buy this stuff. And the thing that Adobe has now done just lately with this last update is to now introduce another subscription, which is a Lightroom only subscription. And now they have pretty much removed Lightroom, which was their last proprietary, licensed software that you could sell per unit. Their perpetual license for Lightroom is now gone, and you can still, they will support, I guess it is Lightroom 6 is their last version. They will support that until like the end of the year or something. They're not going to add any more new cameras to it, to the raw files that Lightroom 6 will support. And it's the end of an era for that. And so now truly, if you want to use Adobe products for photography or video, you're going to have to join Creative Cloud. And you're lucky if you're a photographer because you can get it cheaper. But you still have to subscribe. And, so, you have, and Lightroom itself has been updated drastically as well. The new Lightroom that they're selling as a new license with a new Creative Cloud subscription is much, much easier to use. It's not as powerful, but it gets you right up into the cloud much, much easier. It gives you plenty of storage space and you can buy more. And it's not exactly what I would call a consumer program, but a lot of consumers were using Lightroom. And now, if you go ahead and buy the photography plan for $9.99 a month, then you get Photoshop too. So, who can complain about that?
I'm a little surprised they haven't done something similar for the graphic artists who want and need only InDesign, or the videographers who want and really only need, or primarily need, I should say, Premiere Pro. And I guess it just all depends.
You can do that. There are subscriptions to individual apps. So for $20 a month or something, if you just want InDesign, that's all you want. I believe that you still can do that. You can still purchase a subscription just to InDesign. It's a lot of money.
Oh, it is, and I guess what strikes me is that they've discounted it for the photographers, but not for the other segments of the audience. Which
they did.
There may be I'm sure there's a good reason for it.
There is very good reason for it. The photographers screamed bloody murder, and the graphic designers didn't.
Oh, so everybody else needs to scream bloody murder, and they'll get a discount.
Well,
that's not too cool.
Maybe they'll get a new plan, but I doubt it at this point. This was relatively at the beginning of the whole Creative Cloud thing starting, and it took them about a year, if I'm not mistaken, to realize that they're going to lose a heavy-duty amount of their professional photographers, their target audience, and if they don't do something. That's my take on it. And so they decided to bundle a couple of apps in there and a little bit of storage space, 2 gigabytes or something like that, and said, okay, if this is what you want, we can do this. And that's what they did. And they also left Lightroom as a standalone app that you could buy. And many consumers were actually, it was a consumer/prosumer audience that they were looking at. And they said, well, I can just buy Lightroom, for God's sake. I mean, how many people were just editing with Aperture after a while?
Right.
It had so many editing capabilities. So does Lightroom. A lot of people were just using that and bypassing the whole Creative Cloud thing. And now they can't do that.
Just to be clear, the subscription models do not apply to Photoshop Elements or Premiere Elements.
No, they do not. And and that is the differentiation I was mentioning earlier for both Apple and Adobe, is that they have strictly delineated who is a pro and who is a consumer. And they've made, Adobe particularly has made a lot of decisions about what they're going to cover when they put out consumer programs like Premiere Elements and Photoshop Elements. They're going to stick to what they consider a consumer target market. And one of those things that they did, especially with Elements, was that they decided not to support the new Apple formats. I think that they will eventually do that, maybe next time. And I think also, and they didn't support, AR VR, which, is something that, the pro level programs will do. So, that's part of it, but it's the main part that I see right now. So
give us some of the highlights of the new Creative Cloud version of Photoshop, because it seems like, and not being a professional, I'm not always quite sure how good some of these things are, how relevant they are, or if they're just kind of piling features in to say, hey, we've got new features. So how does it stack up from an honest-to-God usability standpoint?
I think some of the new features are easy to use and make life easier. I think some of the new features are very specialized and really target more professional photographers. If you're going to, for Photoshop, for example, they have completely redesigned their brush engine. And if you are an artist and you are using Photoshop to create and edit art, you're going to love this. They've got a brand new artist that they've bought his company so that his 1,500 brushes are now available to Photoshop users for free. The whole VR thing, that's going to be another thing that you can do in Photoshop. You can edit those files coming out of your 360-degree video camera. And you can buy one of those cameras for between $300 and $600. And they're very cool. And, Photoshop is going to give you a way to completely edit that stuff. You can add layers. You can add type. You can do almost anything with one of those files that you can do with any other, video file or panorama still. So it's really nice. It's pretty easy to do. They've streamlined their stroke technology. Stroking is a big thing when you're lettering and when you're drawing in graphic design apps. And they have this new stroke smoothing technology with this tiny little marker inside of it that shows you how it makes the stroke smoother. And, and then they have other things that they're doing where you can do very, very pointed selections in order to, and pointed masking in order to, shield certain parts of your picture from other edits that you're doing. That one was not particularly intuitive, and I had to try it a bunch of times to do. And I think that again, professional photographers are really going to appreciate that stuff. Is it going to be great for most consumers? I doubt that. But again, they're targeting a lot of these things toward the pros, especially in Photoshop. Photoshop CC is a pro level app. And, there's no question about it. I mean, go to, even Elements is going to be a little bit more full featured than something like Apple Photos. If you want to do more with your photos, you want to do more fun things with your photos, you want to put more special effects on your photos and combine them and do all kinds of other layer type activities with your photos, you're going to pick Elements as opposed to Apple Photos. But Apple Photos is great for organization, and Apple Photos is great for very, very basic mainline edits. And I use both.
Well, Photos, here we go again. Photos is free. It comes with the Mac, so the price is hard to beat. And
it is hard to beat.
For a lot of us that are just casual, I hate to say that it's good enough, because that sounds like it's damning with faint praise, and that's not it. It's very, very good. These other programs, yeah, they can do a lot of things. Maybe I want to do, maybe I need to do, maybe I don't. But there's also a learning curve, and the learning curve with Photos is very flat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. You can figure out anything you need to do with Photos without, going to the instructions. And I think, that is not said for something like Photoshop. If you really want to use it to its best effect, then you're going to want to learn how to use it. Now, luckily, there's lots of free instruction online. You go up there, you can watch 5 different videos. You can watch Julianne Cost all day long, and she will show you how to do the major basic things that you need to do in Photoshop. And all you have to do is sit there and watch it and follow. And by the time you're done, you pretty much can do it too.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's the discussion that we have about the iMac and the MacBooks and all versus the forthcoming iMac Pro, and hopefully soon after to follow Mac Pro. These are real pro level machines. It's a different animal, and so the pricing is going to be such, and all of us would like to think, yeah, well, I can handle a pro level thing. And in today's world, maybe not so much. I mean, things have become so sophisticated and so specialized, and there are such learning curves. I mean, okay, so you can go out and fly a drone, or you can fly a jet fighter. Guess which one takes more training,
Right. Well, and I think, just mentioning drones, that's becoming incredibly popular. I don't care for them myself because I think they interfere with birds. But and they might be a little bit invasive of privacy as well. But you can get, some great shots. And I know people who have done some fabulous work with drone technology, and especially with all of the natural disasters that have been taking place all over the country, that, drone photography, if you didn't have it, it would definitely be a loss. And it's really documentary in a very unique way. So I don't really like it as entertainment photography, but I do like it as documentary news, informative type photography, but that's just me. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of people screaming at me about that.
Where do you see some of the upstarts fitting? And I'm thinking about Affinity Photos, Luminar. I know I'm going to forget some, and I'm sorry, folks, if I do, because there's so many good ones. Pixelmator. There are a lot of good programs out there.
There are definitely a lot of alternatives to Photoshop, and you've mentioned a few of them. Affinity Photo is very dense. It can be very complex, and yet it's also very powerful. And I would recommend that anybody who is not interested in paying a subscription fee and is not interested in using an Adobe product like Photoshop Elements, to absolutely give it a try. It's in the same price range, and it does some great stuff. And I was very impressed with Affinity Photo when I used it. So it's got a different kind of an approach. And, it's an interface that you kind of have to get used to, just like any other program that you use. And, I think the bottom line with something like that is, does it do what you want it to do? And if it does what you want it to do, and it's easy to use, and it's affordable, and it gives you what you want without having to make a lot of compromises, then, hey, all power. MacFun, whose name is changing soon because now they're going into the Windows market, they have a whole suite of apps too, the CK apps, which specialize in various, straightening, conversion to black and white. They have several different apps, and I'm trying to recall their names because there's like 6 of them, and Luminar is one of them. They come together as a suite very, very nicely. They can do all kinds of exposure corrections, all kinds of sharpening. They have all of these presets that let you, give you the guidelines of what your photo would look like, if you use them, and then everything is massively tweakable. And I've enjoyed using those programs a lot too. And every so often I will call them up and, and use them for various specific things. Those are really good apps to use. And, MacFun has been around, I think, since 2008. And they've made great headway. Pixelmator, they're coming up with a Pixelmator Pro. I haven't seen it yet. It's not out yet. And so they've promised to do, more professional, let you do more professional type photo editing. And as we speak, I've asked to see a preview of it, but they haven't answered me yet. And that's going to be sold for $99. So they're directly competing with Photoshop Elements there. So that should be a really interesting contest. Pixelmator is a great favorite of a lot of Mac users, and I think they're going to do very well. And so they're going to have a standard version and they're going to have a pro version. Take your pick, and they're all really affordable. So I'm anxiously awaiting, getting my hands on Pixelmator Pro to see what they're doing with it.
I'm just hoping there is enough room in the market for all of these options, because I think there's so many good options out there, and all of these programs deserve a lot of attention. They deserve at least, folks, for you to go and research a little and see which one you like. And that includes Adobe Photoshop CC. That's
all of them. All of them have like free tryouts, at least 30 days.
Yeah.
Some of them let you save, some of them don't. But I think you can pretty much go through most of the interface to figure out which one suits you the best. Absolutely. I've used quite a number of these things. I mean, some of the HDR apps, they're very cool. If you're into HDR and you want to see this sort of to me, it's sort of weird. My personal view is the more natural looking something looks, the better. That's just my preference. So I don't go in a lot for the special effects. I don't go in a lot for HDR apps, but people love them. And that's the kind of thing where that's your personal taste. MacFun has, Luminar and Aurora and all of these different apps that they've come out with over the last few years. And I think they're doing really well with them. And I think consumers really like them. And these are just for regular folks. These aren't for professionals. I mean, professionals can definitely use them. But
they're fun. They're so much fun to play with. I mean, you can take it to a ridiculous degree and things become hyper realistic, but they also can make a photo that was maybe one that I might have thrown away before into something that, hey, that's kind of interesting. I think I'll keep that around, or maybe even use it for something. So
exactly. I mean, it gives you all kinds of possibilities to salvage photos that you may have just rejected outright. And the special effects part of it just lets you kind of put a little bit more imagination into it and make it usable for something. Maybe not what you intended it for to begin with. But there you have it. You've got so many photos out there. Do you throw them all away, or do you maybe experiment with them a little bit? I think there's room in the market to answer your question. I absolutely do. There are so many. I mean, just look at the photography market and how it's exploded since the iPhone. I mean, I watch kids in the park, shooting tons and tons of video. I watch my little cousin. I'm saying, well, what are you filming over there? I mean, are you going to film the cat sleeping? And she looked at me and said, I'm filming what she's doing. And I'm like, yeah, you got it. You're in, and you got it. And what I am seeing all over the place is that, kids are running around in the dog park, filming birds and, taking pictures of squirrels and taking pictures of their dogs and taking selfies. And you have a huge number of photographers out there, every age, every economic bracket. You don't have to go buy a Canon DSLR or a Nikon DSLR to go take photographs. And you've got to have some way to organize them, and you've got to have some way to edit them, and you've got to have some way to facilitate using them for something, because then otherwise it's not any fun.
Yeah, the old shoebox, the days of the old shoebox are gone. And in a way, it's a shame, because in some ways that makes things a little more accessible, but in other ways, that cost a small fortune, and they were so perishable. I know I've a number of years back now, I made sure that I went through all of our family photos and scanned them in one way or another just to preserve them. And of course, once they're digital, then you're right, you can shove them on iCloud or Google or Flickr or wherever. I can give a copy to my sister, and she can have an entire set of our family photos. So can I. It's something that you need to do. And of course, that was back when I'm talking about preserving the archival stuff. Now, as you say, I mean, when was the last time you had a photo that you printed and that was your only copy? I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen.
I don't think it does. I mean, I do have photos from that era, and I have negatives, and I can scan those negatives if I want to. And, or send them to a negative service and they'll scan them for you. You don't have to do all of this yourself. You don't have to take all that burden on yourself. You can actually hire people to do this stuff for you. And there are a lot of services out there that will let you do that. I wanted, you brought up something interesting to me, though, in terms of the whole paper photo thing. That's actually coming back, too. I mean, a lot, that there was an era around maybe 2008 or so when portable printers were like the thing, and they were like as big as lunch boxes, but that was really small for those days, right? You could take your portable printer to the beach, and you can somehow print all of your photos from your outing and hand them out at the beach. And, that was cool. But, like, for instance, Prynt has a brand new tiny little thing that attaches to your iPhone that will do the same thing. And it uses, augmented reality to do it. So it's Prynt Pocket, and it's this little thing that attaches to the lightning outlet on your iPhone, right? And it's packed with paper, and you take a photo, and it'll just spit out the side like a Polaroid. Yeah. But that's not all it does. It's actually kind of an artificial intelligence thing where it has an augmented reality video embedded in that file, so that when you hover your phone over the print, it comes to life with a little video. So, and that's $150, and you can buy, paper in packs of 10 or 20, I think, something like that. It's not super cheap, but it's not super expensive either. Thing fits in your pocket. So, it's kind of a brand new take on the old, portable printer that you take to the beach, except it gives you more things. So you can add your own video to the little picture. You can actually program your own video on it if you want to have a different video, or it will just do like the iPhone does, the live pictures do. It'll, record a couple seconds before your shot and then a couple seconds after, and it gets embedded into that file. And then when you pass your phone over it, you'll see it.
So now we have AI at the beach. I mean, it's just
old becomes new and new becomes old, and then sort of segues into new again. And it's really interesting because that's how photography is rolling right now. Everybody's doing something with it. Everybody is doing something with it. Even my husband is doing something with it. Like, maybe it's because he's bored while he's waiting for me to take photos.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, oh yeah, well, maybe I'll go ahead and do this too.
Yeah.
And and the kids love it. And this is memories for entire families, and new ways to look at them, new ways to store them, new ways to showcase them. It's exploding. And so you have desktop apps, like you mentioned, Pixelmator and Affinity, and all of those things are going to, I think, do very well, in the consumer market. And then, Apple's own apps right there, free of charge. What could go wrong? Nothing, really nothing.
Yeah, we really haven't even gotten into iOS apps. That's a show for a whole nother time, because that's an amazing market. And
I would have to have my list in front of me, Chuck.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. And a lot of them are really unique. I mean, I mentioned FaceTune, for example. Enlight has a whole line of these kinds of apps that kind of use a little bit of AI, and, they'll do layers and all kinds of special effects and all kinds of, video kind of enhancements. And it's just wild what you can do with some of these algorithms.
It took me a little while to understand the phrase computational photography, and I'm finally starting to understand just what that means, and
Right.
and how powerful it is, and how easily it's put in your hand with iOS apps or even desktop apps. But yeah, it's no longer a matter of just taking the photo, but what you can do with it after you take it is wild.
Exactly.
Jackie, we never get to talk to you enough. There's so much. We always learn something and have our eyes open. So you got to come back more often.
Well, thank you very much for asking me this time. And I hope I've elucidated some things about the new market for photography. I mean, I think that there's just an incredible amount going on out there. There are a lot of brand new apps and relatively new apps that are out there. They're competing with Adobe in terms of price. They're competing with Apple in terms of price. You have a whole subset of iOS apps that are really superb. And yeah, we should, just talk about that one day.
That sounds good. I do have one last question. Are you in any kind of trouble?
Trouble?
Yeah.
Personally?
Yeah, personally, because are you in witness protection or anything? Because the light has just been slowly going down.
I'm sorry.
No, it's funny.
Oh, no.
I haven't even really thought about it until right now. I just looked up and said,
No, because it just got dark.
wow, yes. So that's how long we've been going at this.
Should I turn the light? I can. Hold on.
Okay, folks, so that's how Jackie really looks when she's lit, and she's not in any trouble, so that's good. That's good. Jackie, give us a quick rundown. I know that we mentioned the Macworld piece for Adobe Photoshop CC 2018. Where else can we find your stuff right now?
Okay, I'm doing most of the writing recently has been for either Tom's Guide or Digital Photography Review.
Great. And you're on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. It's Jackie Dove, JACKIDOVE, because somebody actually hijacked my real spelling of my name. So if you look for Jackie Dove with the E at the end of Jackie, you will find another person. So it's JACKIDOVE.
Well, there's Jackie. That's what she looks like. So you can match her up with the picture on Twitter and you'll get the right one. Okay. Jackie, thanks again. It's really a pleasure. We will have to do it more often.
Oh, thank you so much, Chuck. Thanks for having me. And we'll see you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. I hope you enjoyed this. I always learned something when I talk to Jackie, things that I didn't know about photography and certainly what's coming up. You can check our show notes. We'll have links there. Feel free to follow Jackie and me on Twitter. And if you got something out of it, help support MacVoices with our new Patreon campaign. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com, bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.